Good afternoon, Dr. Chona Pulido. Good afternoon, co-masterants. I am Mercy Laguras, and we, the Group 1, will report about workflow and food waste disposal. First, I will talk about food flow, keeping food safe from gate to plate. So here is the goal. To understand the commercial food flow process from receiving through reheating and how food safety can be either enhanced or compromised at each step. The objectives is to recognize the steps in the commercial food service process and to identify at least one food safety concern at each step. To comprehend that SOPs or standard operating procedure are the actions that ensure food is handled safely by all employees. To identify the different types of food allergens and how to prevent a food allergy attack in a food service customer. To understand that water used in food service must be from an approved source and to learn how to avoid cross-contamination. The food flow covers is the first is the food flow process, second the SOPs or standard operating procedures and how to apply the principle in food preparation, third food allergens and how to prevent allergic reactions, fourth water supply for food service, and fifth the last is the ethical behavior for food workers. And here are some definitions. The adulterated food law identifies a number of situations that cause a food to be adulterated and unfit for human use. Cross-contact, when an allergen is transferred to a food served to the customer. Cross-connection, a physical link through which contaminated water can enter a food system's drinking water supply. An example is a hose connected to a faucet and submerged underwater in a sink. The FIFO, first in, first out. This means stored items are rotated so that the oldest items are used first. Food allergy, the body's negative reaction to a food protein. Food flow, the path food takes from receiving and storage through preparation, cooking, holding, serving, cooling, and reheating. Pathogen, a disease-causing microorganism. SOP, a standard operating procedure, is an outlined step-by-step process covering one aspect of facility and personnel cleanliness and or safe food handling practice. So here are the food flow process. So food flow process is the handling or preparation of food ingredients or products through the food establishment and service to a customer. Food must be handled safely at each step. Food flow steps are described below. First is the receiving. Receiving is the food service first contact with food. Food must be obtained from approved sources. Food prepared in a private home may not be used in food service. After receiving, food must be checked off and invoiced and stored appropriately and quickly. Temperatures of frozen and refrigerated items must be measured when they are delivered to be sure they have been kept cold enough during transport. To avoid mistakes and to allow perishable foods to be put away as quickly as possible, deliveries should be arranged when the food establishment is not busy. Storage. The freezer, refrigerator, or walk-in cooler and pantry are storage areas where food is held until it is prepared. Follow the FIFO principle. First in, first out. Rotating food so that the newest ingredients are in the back of the storage area while the older products are moved to the front. If food packages do not have dates, date packages when they are received. Preparation. Avoidance of cross-contamination and the control of food temperature are both very important habits to develop during the preparation stage. When large quantities of a time or temperature control for safety food items or TCS are prepared, the batch method is recommended for food safety. Time or temperature control for safety TCS. A TCS food requires time and controls to limit the growth of illness-causing bacteria. Work with only a small amount of the ingredients at one time. For example, if 200 cream puffs are to be filled with custard, handle the ingredients for only 25 at a time. Fill and refrigerate those 25 before handling another 25. This way, perishable ingredients are not exposed to room temperature for a long time. TCS foods held in the danger zone, 41 degree Fahrenheit to 135 degree Fahrenheit, for more than 4 hours are considered adulterated and must be discarded. Temperatures are discussed in greater detail in lesson 7 and 8. So cooking. Cooking requires temperature checks with a thermometer to ensure that food is adequately cooked. Specific temperatures and times are required when cooking TCS food to ensure that the pathogens are destroyed. So holding. Holding food is common with buffet-style service. Hot foods must be held 135 degree Fahrenheit and cold foods below 41 degree Fahrenheit to keep TCS foods out of the danger zone. Foods must be held in approved serving units. The temperature of foods must be checked at least every 4 hours. Then serving. Serving means either plating a customer's orders individually or offering self-service. Be aware that customers can contaminate a food bar without realizing it. Then cooling. Large amounts of food don't cool quickly, so divide the food into several smaller, shallow containers before storing them in the refrigerator or walk-in cooler. Reheating. Reheating must be done within 2 hours to the required temperature of 165 Fahrenheit for 15 seconds, or in some cases until boiling, and check with the thermometer. So instant read thermometers or instant read refers to the thermometers that are used to check food temperature at a point in time before the food's removal from the cooking process. They do not remain in the food during cooking. They are two commonly available types: dial and digital thermometer. Dial or bimetal coil thermometers. These instruments require about 15 to 50 seconds to correctly register a temperature. Temperature is measured along 2 inches or 2.5 inches of the lower part of the stem of the thermometer, where the bimetal coil is located, so the thermometer must be inserted deeply into a food item to get an accurate reading. A dial thermometer can be used to test the temperature of a hamburger if the patty is thick enough by inserting it into the side of the meat patty. The second one is the digital thermometers. These instruments have a thermistor, a ceramic material that changes resistance with temperature change, located in the bottom 1/2 tip of the stem to measure temperature. A digital thermometer needs to be inserted 1/2 into the food item for an accurate reading, so it is a good choice for measuring temperature in thin food. Be sure to position the tip of the stem in the area in the food, usually the center, where you want to measure the temperature. A digital thermometer requires 15 to 40 seconds to register the temperature. Digital thermometers requires also battery power. So, the standard operating procedures or SOPs. A standard operating procedure is a method for carrying out a task. Food service establishments should have in place SOPs for personal hygiene, basic sanitation, and food storage and handling. Anytime a new employee is hired, SOPs should be clearly demonstrated and then followed up with a review. SOPs don't necessarily have to be written in a manual, but should be habits everyone routinely follows. They can be listed on a checklist for students or employees to check off as they are working. As an example of an SOP, is use a clean red colored cutting board to prepare hamburger patties. Do not prepare any other food on this cutting board until it is washed and sanitized. Family and personal cleanliness are probably the easiest topics for which to develop an SOP checklist. An example would be a checklist covering all the steps an employee should do before starting a work shift, like put on a clean apron or uniform, tie long hair away from your face, remove jewelry and fingernail polish, and wash your hands. Other checklists could cover correct hand washing procedures. Like, okay. It is first how and when, where are washing steps, including how much soap and sanitizing chemical to put in the sinks, how full to fill the sinks, what the water temperature should be, how often the wash, rinse, sanitizing sinks should have their water changed, plus how to handle garbage disposal. Employees don't need to actually check the steps of each time they work, but having the checklist posted near where the work is done helps remind everyone how to do the job properly. So the SOP demonstrated in this lesson covers how to safely prepare a hamburger. In some food service establishments, this procedure may be a part of the hazards analysis and critical control points, or HACCP, plan rather than an SOP. Its main points are: use a thermometer to test doneness rather than relying on the color of the center of the hamburger of the juices. Do not touch the hamburger with your hands, but use a turner to place the hamburger on the grill and clean turner to place it in the bun to serve. Environmental health specialists note that some establishments use the same turner to pick up the raw hamburger as well as the cooked one. This risks cross-contamination. Cook the hamburger to 155 degrees Fahrenheit and maintain the temperature for 15 seconds. Test it with a clean and sanitized dial or bimetal thermometer, inserting the stem of the thermometer 2 1/2 in into the meat, or insert 1/2 in of a clean and sanitized digital instant thread thermometer probe into the center of the hamburger. Wash and sanitize thermometers between uses. So next is food allergens. The issue of food allergies has become more important in food service in recent years. Entry-level food service employees need to know that food allergies are serious and can be life-threatening. Although hundreds of foods are known to cause allergic reactions, the Big 8 account for 90% of them in the United States. The 8 major allergens are milk and dairy products, eggs and egg products, fish, shellfish, wheat, soy and soy products, peanuts and tree nuts such as almonds, pecans, and walnuts. By law, packaged foods containing these allergens must identify clearly in the label Food Allergen Labeling and Consumer Protection Act of 2004. Students should be aware of the symptoms of allergic reaction so that they can recognize when emergency medical help should be called. They should be able to respond to an allergic customer's request for information about allergens in menu items, or know who in the food service establishment is able to answer these questions accurately. Students should also know how to handle foods for customers with food allergies to avoid cross-contact. Next is the water supply and protection. Water used in food service establishments must be from an approved source. The public water system used by most establishments is an approved source. If an on-site private well is used, the well must be tested for bacteria quarterly and for nitrates or nitrites annually. Food service establishments are required to keep the most recent test result of the well water on file. Contaminated water can enter the safe water supply if cross connections occur. Cross connections are situations where water can flow backwards due to siphoning. The most common source of backflow in food service is a hose connected to a faucet that does not have a backflow prevention device. If the hose is below the water level in the sink and the water pressure in the system drops, water in the sink can be suctioned into the building's water piping system. Numerous examples like this have occurred. For example, in a Treasure Valley restaurant, a hose was placed in a wash vat. A change in water pressure caused chemical sanitizer to be sucked out of the vat and into the water distribution system. Plumbing of the water system is critical to keep water safe. Thus, it must conform to the Idaho Plumbing Code. For example, sinks, mechanical dishwashing systems, ice machines, submerged inlets on deeper wells and steam tables, and water supply to boilers all must be properly plumbed to prevent backflow. So commercial food service is different methods used at home. Food preparation practices used at home are the responsibility of family members and may not be acceptable for commercial food service. Some of the practices recommended for consumer use at home by various government agencies differ from practices required for food service. This table gives some examples of the differences. Here we can see the topic, the food service rule, and the home consumer recommendation. Topic is ground beef cooking endpoint. The service rule is 155 degree Fahrenheit for 55 seconds, and the home or consumer recommendation is 160 degree Fahrenheit. Time. Second one is time. The time temperature control for safety food or TCS is allowed to be in the danger zone. The service rule is 4 hours, then must be discarded. Then the home and consumer recommendation is 2 hours, but reduced to 1 hour when temperature rises above 90 degree Fahrenheit. The third one is sanitizing of food contact surfaces. The food service rule is required, and the recommendations vary. And the hand washing facilities separate sink for hand washing. That's why we need in this food service rule, we should aware to separate sink for hand washing. And in home consumer recommendation, no recommendation regarding facilities for hand washing. And that would be all. And the continuation of my topic will be reported by Ma'am Charisse. Thank you.